Good evening, everybody. I'm going to call this meeting to order at 6:02 with Windsor Southeast Supervisory Union. And changes, additions to the agenda. First change is policy discussion followed by motion. F, C28, transgender and gender nonconform student policy will be a second read, not an agenda. And that's all I have. Anything else? Okay. Approval of the minutes. September 18th, 2025. I will take a motion to approve those minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay. Take a quick voice vote. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. All opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? Okay.
I'll abstain. I don't believe I was there.
Okay. And that was that. September 22nd, 2025. We'll take a motion to approve these minutes.
So moved.
Second.
The team has been picked. Any discussion? Okay, voice vote. All in favor of passing September 22nd minutes, please say aye.
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 Aye and aye. Any
Aye.
opposed, say nay. Any abstentions?
Me, abstain.
Okay, Megan is an abstention. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Public participation. We ask that all speakers direct their comments to the board directly and not to the audience. Each speaker will have 3 minutes. No one speaks until recognized. No shouting or profanity, no questions or comments about specific personnel. On these matters, we ask that you go through appropriate administrative channels. We will insist that all speakers and members of the audience maintain civility and respect any divergent views that others possess. Likewise, you may expect that any restriction will be viewpoint neutral. Please do not expect the board to respond to your questions and comments tonight. We take your comments seriously, and we want to have sufficient time to process and research issues if need requires it. If there seems to be an issue that ought to be followed up on, we may respond at a future meeting or have an appropriate staff member get back to you at an appropriate time. Lori Sullivan Justice. Please state your name, and even though I just said it, and what town you live in.
Hi there. My name is Lauren Sullivan Justice, and I'm a Wethersfield resident. Can I start?
Yes, go right ahead.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'm speaking today to voice my support for people in the transgender community and to applaud LGBTQIA advocates and allies in this community and school district. I would also like to voice my support for the transgender and gender nonconforming students policy, which is a vitally important document for protecting trans students and treating them with respect and dignity. Trans people have always existed. For example, as early as 3,000 years ago, records from ancient civilizations like Mesopotamia, Greece, and India describe people living outside the gender binary, showing that transgender identities have existed across cultures throughout history. There's no such thing as a unified radical left transgender ideology. Transgender people are not a political movement, but a diverse group of individuals who simply want to live their lives safely and authentically. Blaming violence on a fabricated ideology not only ignores the real causes of harm, but also spreads misinformation and fuels prejudice toward an already marginalized community. Trans youth is among the most vulnerable populations in our state and in our school systems, but we know that gender-affirming schools can make a significant positive difference in trans students' lives. The data from Vermont's most recent Youth Risk Behavior Survey indicates that queer and trans youth in our state suffer from anxiety, depression, and suicidal ideation at a significantly higher rate than their cisgender heterosexual peers. Vermont LGBTQ+ students are 3 times more likely to report making a suicide plan during the past year compared to heterosexual cisgender students. And 16% of trans and non-binary youth in Vermont attempted suicide in 2024. Trans youth who are a part of gender-affirming schools have lower rates of suicide attempts and report less adverse mental health outcomes. It is essential that we create and uphold inclusive school environments to support these students. LGBTQ students' mental health struggles are not the result of being LGBTQ. Rather, they are the result of societal stigmatization and mistreatment. These students are struggling in so many ways because of the chronic stress of living in a society that constantly rejects, harms, and stigmatizes them. The trans and non-binary policy is essential for ensuring the safety and well-being of our students while they are within our care. I'd like to close my remarks by expressing my deep thanks to this district that supports LGBTQIA+ students. I'd especially like to thank the teachers that are continuing to show up and support LGBTQIA youth during this polarizing and scary time. Now is not the time to hide. Your students need you. Read the books, teach the history, spread the joy, fly the flag. Tolerance is not a given. We have to protect it. Racism, homophobia, transphobia, and generalized fear of the other are out in the open, becoming normalized. We can't allow it to continue. It's time to show up. It's time to lead with love and light. Thank you.
Thank you, Lauren. Anyone else?
If there are no other community members, I just want to do a little bit of a repeat of the announcement that I made
Absolutely.
at the district level meeting, but I want to make sure it gets said at least once in each one because I've continued to see this come up and not really understand what it's about in the community, and I just want to make it as clear as possible. The letter of intent between the Windsor Southeast Supervisory Union, Hartford School District, and Mountain Views Supervisory Union, that effort to show our intent towards the redistricting task force so that we can have some agency should that consolidation happen, which is theirs in the legislature's decision, is not related to Woodstock building a new larger high school. There are no plans happening now or any plans for plans to send all of these students from Windsor to Woodstock. I just want to make it like crystal that that's not a thing that is happening. That's it.
Thank you, David. Not a thing that's even been discussed. No. Is there anyone else? Okay.
Should we do the dinner, the community dinner?
Oh, yeah. You want to announce it?
I don't
Thanks
know.
for remembering.
November 6th, the Mount Escutney School Board will be doing a community dinner at the
Trinity
Evangelical Church at 4.
It's like 6.
We start setting up at 4:30. I think we serve at 5:30.
Okay.
Yeah, 5 to 7. Yeah, thanks, man.
Any other board members or anyone else here who wants to show up? It is open. It's a good time. Thank you. Anyone else?
I have a shout out.
Sure.
We've had 2 of our high school teams in the playoffs recently. So field hockey in the playoff, and they did a fantastic job. They didn't win, and we had the girls play. The soccer team played on Saturday against People's Academy. It was a really, really, really great game. It looked like a final game. Both teams were really skilled and worked really hard, and our girls lost in overtime on a
PK?
no, it was overtime, but it's not, we don't, I gotta say,
She doesn't want to say something.
Yeah,
it's
golden goal.
golden goal.
Golden goal.
But they made a valiant effort and they should be commended for their hard work and all their great seasons. I believe the football team will be in the playoffs.
Thursday, 7 o'clock.
Just shouting out our kids and all the hard work they're doing.
Interesting.
And they lose with grace and, great sportsmanship and hold their heads high, which I think is really a tribute to the coaching and the teamwork that they experience on our athletic field. So.
Thank you.
Yeah.
This is Elizabeth with a clapping celebration
Yeah.
emoji. Okay, second read tonight, C8, pupil policy. Pupil privacy policy, thank you. It's not a big change.
Just the highlight, Bill?
Hmm?
Is the highlighted portion, is that in addition?
It's
or-
new, yellow is new language.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's right. Thanks.
I think the one change from last month was we changed parent, legal
Yeah.
guardian to just legal guardian.
Yes.
Yep.
Any comments? Other concerns? And this, from my understanding, it's clearer language. It's also due to update in the law. Selection of library materials and procedures. And in this one, you have the yellow is the new language, or is the red the new
The
language?
red is the old language.
It's kind of
What's in
like,
there.
thank you.
Yep.
And this looks more like a complete overhaul. Implementation. Elizabeth,
Hi, thank you. Is it okay for a community member to comment on policy?
as long as I allow it, I
Okay, thanks.
there isn't anything stopping it at the same time, though. What's your opinion, Elizabeth?
I see that Liz Frederick has her hand up and she is the librarian in Brownsville.
Okay,
And I think she has a library comment.
that's, I would look forward to hearing from Liz on this subject. Go ahead, Liz.
Hi. So I'm just reading over it now. First of all, I had a question on how Windsor is going to be able to comply with this policy when they don't have a high school library, to my understanding. Which, is something that I also just want to say I really think there should be a high school library. So I think that's something to think about. Are we actually meeting these goals at the high school level? We don't have the library, and I know there's not an official middle school library either in Windsor, but I know that that's been supplemented a lot by the teachers in that wing. So I guess that's just something that I would ask the board to look at, and wondering if there's a way to expand access to books in general in the high school. I'm also wondering if, when this was drafted, if you used other libraries' policies to kind of piggyback off and like for research purposes. Overall, I think this looks really good. I'm just commenting because, in the last year we had to rewrite our library policy in compliance with the new law. And this looks pretty close to what we do in a public library. So I guess I'm in support of it. I just would like to make sure that we're actually giving access to kids in our school buildings equally. That's it.
Thank you. I don't know. I noticed the same thing at Hartford High School. They don't have a library. And I think that decision was made after, a few years in which no students have taken out any books because
Yeah.
any book they need is in the classroom
Or online.
or online. So
Is that the case in Windsor? Because when I went to the open house, I did ask about this, and I did see the book collection in the middle school. I was told at the open house that the book collection in the high school is not anywhere close to that. So I'm not sure if we're actually meeting those needs
yes,
based on what I was told there.
Yeah.
that may be a really good subject to bring up at the Mount Scotty School District Board.
Yeah.
Which has sway over Windsor Library, or the Windsor schools. I would to have some sort of lending library for students, especially students that need have access to those. I think that's a goal that is worth exploring.
I think it could be interesting too, just to think about how we, because so many, formerly print resources are now stored and transmitted electronically, like
Right.
is there some sort of designation or distinction about like what we're considering to be library resources versus just, online resources used for a specific curriculum or, classroom use? But yeah, no, it's a good thing to bring up.
I know the Green Mountain Library Consortium has a special site for academic libraries that I know Hartford, the last time I knew that Hartford was a part of, that allows teachers to take out books, students to take out books with a school account. And so there's less restrictions on how many people can rent a book from their school accounts. So if you have 5 students who want the same book, all 5 can do it. The price that the library, the Green Mountain Library Consortium pays for public school accounts is much less than those that for example, they would pay if I borrowed a book from somebody else.
We've just invested in teaching books. So the curriculum department for all of the schools has a new software called Teaching Books at the request of the librarians. And it's young children up to young adults. And there also is a at-home access for all parents to access. Again, it's electronic, but the database also, and it's full of lessons and connections. Extremely amazing website. So it's called, just for the record, it's called Teaching Books. So that word will spread over the next few weeks that at-home people can access it. So, okay. Yep.
Thank you, Liz. Any other discussion on this policy? Okay, D, F5, behavioral threat assessment teams. I don't see any changes in this. It looks like everything in here is fairly new based on the fact that most of the laws from Vermont on behavioral threat assessment teams is quite new. Basically, this just lays out this, the SU's and school district's responsibility to have a behavioral threat assessment team to have behavioral threat assessments take place. Yeah.
It's something that we've been working on for the past few years. So we do have teams in place. We, essentially following the guidelines of the policy already. And one change is we have to be trained annually. Our teams have to be trained annually. So we have signed up for annual training in November. Each school has a team, typically made up of the principal, the nurse, the school counselor, sometimes the SRO if that's appropriate, Jen Halls if that's appropriate, depending on the student needs, and other people as needed, but that's the full team.
What system are you trained on? Anyone?
Behavior threat assessment. What system are we trained on?
Yeah, is it like a particular like?
The last one we went to, yes, it was like the,
I know Evade is one that
yeah, I
the
think it was
hospital
that
are doing
one.
that's become pretty
Um,
popular.
Our training is in November, so we'll see if it's changed.
Okay.
Based on what the AOE decides to
That's cool.
have us trained on.
Elizabeth?
Thanks. Christine, is that training the behavioral assessment day that's coming up? I think
No, that's tomorrow.
that's what I thought. Is anybody from our supervisory union attending that?
Yes, I'm going with one of the Windsor principals and the Heartland principal. Kind of take turns. This one doesn't count towards our annual training.
Right.
So last year, Weathersfield and one other principal went. So we try to take turns. So I'm going tomorrow with Colleen and Frank.
It looks like a really interesting agenda. I really look forward to hearing about it.
Yeah, yeah. I've been before and it is always a good learning experience, to be honest with you. So yep, I can report back next month.
Thanks.
Thank you.
And it's free. We don't have to pay to go, which isn't always the case, so.
Yeah, wish the what was it, Vermont Fest, the technology one.
Yeah, it's free. That was free, right?
Okay. F42, Windsor Southeast SU, acceptable use of information and communication technology.
No changes this meeting. For the third reading, we will have changes.
Okay.
Some of them will be purely semantics, like what nobody refers to Web 2.0.
Okay.
But there will be other less semantic changes that I will bring forward.
Okay.
So more to follow.
Okay. We may want to extend this for another reading.
We can do it fourth
Yeah.
reading.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Okay. Draft C80 Health and Safety Policy, second read. So,
No changes since last time.
okay. How is this different than the health policy, which the nurses spent so much time creating? Or it's just more
This
of a,
one is more geared towards staff.
Okay.
Health and safety policy, the other health, it's not health and safety, is it? It's
Yes.
got a different name.
Wellness.
It's local wellness, isn't it?
okay.
That's geared more towards
Okay.
students, curriculum.
This was the policy that, okay, thank you.
Yes,
This
for
is the policy
negotiations.
we're creating because of the health and primarily the safety concerns of the staff during negotiations with teachers and support staff. Okay,
So there's some language in the contract now,
yes.
and we shared that we would create a policy and then we would take that language out of the contract.
Yeah.
So this is the policy, yes.
Have we had input from staff on this?
I shared it at the union leader meeting. I linked it to our agenda and shared it with them and told them that it was on the queue at the board meeting.
Okay,
So I haven't heard, haven't sent it out to all staff. I can certainly do that if you would like.
I would. I'd like
Okay.
any staff who has an opinion on it to be able to come in to the third reading if they have strong feelings about it. And I would be, I don't want to pass on. I'd just like how Liz has expertise in library. I'd be happy to hear their opinion during the discussion of the policy.
You got it.
Yeah. And I read through it. I like it. I believe it.
Here's the contract.
Yeah.
And it has been vetted through
Yeah,
our legal counsel, so.
yeah. It covers, some concerns of the legal counsel. Yeah. And that's what we found important.
Yeah.
C28. No, I'm sorry. Any other comments on this? C28, transgender and gender non-conforming students policy, second read. I think whoever worked on this, be it someone in the district or someone outside the district, I believe it clarifies and simplifies things very well. Does anyone else have opinion on this? Comments?
No, I didn't catch it. There's not really any material change here. It's just
No,
kind of a tighter policy.
cleanup.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Then if there's no more discussion, we will move on to administrative report.
That was fast. Well done. All right. Your screen. We have several reports tonight, so we're going to get right to it. Try to be as succinct as possible, but also informative. I'm going to go first. So I always like to start with what our kids and our staff are doing in alignment with our strategic plan. So as you know, one of our goals is student success and engagement. And so you'll see that we have some teachers working together, grade level teams across the view. We had PD on October 9th and 10th. And it was a data dive mostly and looking at our STAR data at the classroom and individual level, setting goals around that. But then there was some curriculum work that continued from the fall, and staff are working on really looking at the curriculum, aligning it across the SU, which units make sense where we're teaching them, which ones maybe can be combined or even eliminated if need be. And then they're working on common assessments, and so that we are collecting the same data across the SU, which we really haven't necessarily done in the past. So we're actually really happy that this is happening, and we'll be able to look at data consistently across the SU, which is exciting to us. We have some students engaged in small group work and some students at the middle school who are working on a hands-on activity in science class. And I will say our part of student engagement is really creating some voice opportunity, real world experiences for our kids, and our teachers are working to do that, which is a balance when you have a curriculum that you are supposed to be delivering. It's really hard balance, but they're working on it. Culture and student and staff wellness. We have a group of high school students this year that are, Kate's done a really nice job. There are a lot of groups at the high school meeting, and so there's been an effort to coordinate those groups so that there's not overlap and people doing the same thing, planning the same things, and you know, trying to be really organized and share leadership across the high school. So this is a group of kids that are working with Up for Learning, who is helping teach them some leadership skills and helping. They were working on potentially helping devise a student culture survey. So that work is ongoing this year. We've got in the middle there a student in a student leadership role. She's the greeter. So when you walk into that classroom, that student pops up and says hello and welcome and what's your name, which is really, and I think that was kindergarten, so it's pretty awesome to see that. And then the last picture is, oh, it's a little bit blurry, but Heartland did a Harvest Fest in October, and the older kids, one of their goals this year under culture and leadership is they have partners, older students and younger students. And so the younger students were with the older students doing these various stations. It was a wonderful day that they planned and that students helped plan. So really working on getting the students involved. As you know, we've been really focused on behavior work across the SU. Tracy's going to show you shortly an pretty amazing bullying prevention video that was created by the students some students in each of our schools. It's hot off the press, so you're going to be the first ones to see it this afternoon or this evening. And then we did our first behavior data dive with staff last week at a staff meeting. And when we were preparing for those data dives, we found some things in the system that needed to be tweaked. So as you're working through things, you find things, and Bridget and Wendy and her team have really been instrumental in like making the changes in the MBA system so that the data is the data that we're collecting is the data that we want and the data we need to help make change in our school. So I think the staff really appreciated looking at it. You can see, you know, sometimes there are a lot of incidents, but when you dig in, it's really a few students creating a lot of incidents, and those students need our support. So what is that going to look like? So those discussions have been rich and ongoing. I think we found we don't have enough time to dig in as deep as we'd like. So we have to figure out how to do that a little bit, how to make the time. A couple of updates that I'm bringing back to you that I've been tasked with. So we've met with the 8th grade. The math team teaches 8th grade algebra. We had our second meeting today. We had a lengthy discussion in both of the meetings with them, but I think they've come to consensus that it makes sense for individual schools to be able to figure out how to offer algebra at the school level. And the reason for that is they feel strongly that 8th grade math should be taught to all students, because within 8th grade math, there are algebra skills, there are also geometry skills, there are also other 8th grade math skills that might be being lost when they're just taking algebra. But they do want to offer the opportunity for kids to be able to still take algebra if they want to. So the discussion was, it could be an elective taught by their math teacher. They understand that doesn't necessarily come with a high school math credit, but it does allow a student to then go into geometry and gives them more time to fulfill the math requirements for whatever area they're going into. We talked about VTBLC being an option, and I think it's going to be a case by case how many students want to do it. If there are a lot, I think the principals are committed to figuring out how their certified math teacher could offer an elective. If there are a few students, I think they are in support of offering VTBLC with support of the math teacher. So I think it's going to look different depending on the school and the year. So we also talked about, you know, maybe this makes sense for next year looking at the numbers, but maybe not the following year. So the board is okay with that. I think at some point you have to vote on it. You voted to bring 8th grade algebra to the SU level. You have to vote to not. So put on a future agenda. That's okay. Okay. Larry and I have been meeting with the maintenance staff as we were tasked with at the retreat. We had some really great conversations. I think we probably could have made it happen with a side letter of sorts, but when the staff went to their UNISERV director, the advice was not to make any changes right now due to consolidation potentially happening. So we're not doing it right now. Yeah. But we did have some great conversations with them, and it was
Closest we've ever been.
Closest we've ever been. Yeah, for real. So, and as you know, there is new legislation on a cardiac response plan. So I've been meeting with the nurses. We met with a representative from the medical center in Burlington. It's escaping me right now, the hospital, who gave us some draft policies and checklists for us to use to create our own, and the nurses are working on that, but we will be in compliance. It's actually really important to have these plans and these checklists. You do have to check the batteries in your machines to make sure they're working, which we hadn't had a protocol for in the past. I mean, the nurses were doing it, but not, consistently across the SU. So
is that Fletcher Allen?
yeah, I think Fletcher Allen thinks so.
Yeah. Oh, UVA Medical Center now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He used to work at
We
it.
training.
So part of the plan means you have to have people that know how to, use the machines and administer CPR. And so we are bringing in a person to teach the people that we determine should be required. Which school personnel, besides the nurse, should have this training. And, we talked about it's got to be somebody that, it doesn't make sense for it to be a classroom teacher really, because classroom teacher can't really leave their classroom to go save somebody, as fast as maybe the principal or the admin assistant or whoever. So that needs to be determined. And then once we figure that out, we're going to offer training on our half day in March. So we've worked out the professional development calendar so that we can make that happen. So that's all in the works. Do
Just,
you have a question? Dave?
yeah, really, about, like, right now, about how many AEDs are there in the building? Or I should say,
There's a minimum one,
Yeah.
but there should be
At
one.
Windsor now, there's one on every level.
One on every level,
Windsor.
yeah, because of an incident. They are talking about, the nurses brought up in our meeting that there should be a machine accessible to outdoor
Yeah,
sporting.
Windsor does have one outdoor.
Yeah,
but
sporting. It's different in every building, so it's good to.
There's at least one in every building though,
Yes.
and there's conversation that happens
Yes.
outside it. Yeah, no,
Yes.
that's, in
Yep.
my experience, that's what I've seen them needing, so yeah.
And it's great. I mean, there's a cost to it, so.
You gotta know where they are, so at least on the ones in Windsor, if it's on the floor, all staff should be aware. I mean, you pass them
Right.
all the time.
Right.
But there might be kids who don't pass them, right?
Right.
Depending on where they go.
So, yeah, it's really good work. And it makes sense.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
Quick federal funds update. The government is shut down. I just want you to know it hasn't impacted our funds yet, because we're forward funded, so our funds are coming in. We are concerned about SNAP services, and those, I think, November 1st go away due to the shutdown. And so we are going to be diligently looking to notice if our kids need support and figure out how to offer them support to the best of our ability.
Elizabeth?
Thanks. I just want to say that the legislature is also working on this, the emergency board, which is made up of the governor and leadership from both the House and Senate and several administrators. I think they're meeting either on Wednesday or Thursday of this week. We already have money set aside for SNAP. So it won't be a problem to fund that gap. The problem is how to fund the gap, because SNAP is administered through a program called EBT, which is what?
Oh, I was just saying, yes.
Yeah, EBT is something benefits transfer. And it is
Yeah.
Electronic
electronic benefits transfer. Thank you. And it's the card that SNAP funds are loaded onto. And the administration of EBT is also not working right now because it's part of the shutdown, and it has been included in the SNAP shutdown. So we don't know how the funds will be distributed, but we do know that we have the funds and we want to distribute them. And I think that's what will be decided on Wednesday or Thursday.
That is great to hear. Thank you, Elizabeth. Takes a little bit of the worry off my mind. Okay, just quickly, I don't have much to update on the redistricting task force. Sessions have been going on across the state. We've been sending out information for people to take the survey, which is now closed. And I think the last redistricting engagement session is tomorrow. There was a virtual link. I think the right one's out there now. Or there was a link sent that didn't work for some reason last time. So 3 maps are being discussed as far as I know. CTE. There's a BOCES structure that's will be discussed, and strategic regional high schools. And Elizabeth has been attending those meetings for us, so I think she should
Go ahead, Elizabeth.
definitely weigh in. She knows far more than I do.
So first of all, tomorrow the task force is meeting from 9:30 to 3:30, and then at 6:30 is the last public input session. So I highly recommend if you're of the mind and have the time, go to that. But There are two extended, so they're gonna, on November 10th is the day that they will, the task force will see the actual map recommendations. Unfortunately, all of this public comment has not been about particular maps. And so if you plan to go and make a comment, it can't be about a map. The maps will be finalized at their November 27th meeting. And I plan to do a couple of public forums between those two dates, between the 10th and the 27th, so that I can give actual informational updates. But also very important is that on November 7th, which is a Friday, from 6 to 7 p.m., which is a terrible time, and it's only an hour, but the small schools, the small schools committee of the State Board of Education, which is deciding on small, the standards for small schools being kept open. They are meeting on that day, and they also have a public input session that is November 7th from 6 to 7 p.m. And I will be sending out information. I'll send you information about that, Christine, so that you can put that in your thing.
Yes, I'd be happy to. Thank you, Elizabeth, and thank you for attending all those meetings for us and keeping us updated. It's really helpful.
One more thing. The Commission on the Future of Public Education in Vermont has been talking about the makeup and role of school boards, and also the role of public input on school closures. They have finalized their preliminary draft of their report. Their report and the task force report are both due to the legislature on December 1st. The commission has their draft requires a lot of reading between the lines. And they have some of the meetings were not very well attended, although they did have a quorum. But they made some decisions at those meetings that will have really big impacts on whatever consolidation occurs. And one of those impacts is that the new boards will not necessarily be made up of one member from each town, and that there may not be any real public input on school closures. And again, when I have those public forums, I will explain in greater detail. But that report, the preliminary report, is out on the commission's website. Thanks.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Okay, just let you know, we completed our audit. Auditors were here in October for 3 days. No material findings again for how many years, Larry?
Since FY20.
Since FY20. We will post the results as soon as we have them, in the final report on the website, which the other ones are on there. I just have to shout out our team because the auditors really appreciate coming here. Everything's in order. If they have questions, we are available, Larry mostly, or Deanna, or Jordan. And so they've been very complimentary of the way we do business here, which is nice to hear.
And I think a special shout out to Deanna Kroll, who does a lot of the work behind the scenes. You never see at board meetings, and you wouldn't know about her from the website or anything, but she does a lot of the internal auditing before it ever gets to the auditors, which allows us to, make best use of the tax dollars. And I think it's really important that, everybody appreciates the work that she does. It's kind of unheralded work. She's not working with kids, but it's really important with the work that we do, that we have somebody with her level of expertise and knowledge.
And
She sounds like a pretty important strategy.
Yeah.
very important. And she doesn't miss anything.
No.
A lot of moving parts behind the scenes, and that is really greatly appreciated.
Yeah, it's 4 entities and $58 million.
Yeah.
Yep.
She does a really phenomenal job. So shout out. All right. Speaking of that,
John?
Yeah, a question, I think it's for Larry, whether or not we indeed have a second signer for our checks.
Yeah, it's currently, as of now, my understanding is no, it's you, and so we need a second signer. So I guess future board meeting, we should put on the
On
agenda.
the agenda, yep.
In
November.
other words, I should stay healthy.
Yes,
Please.
thanks, John,
All
and
right.
thanks for stepping up.
Okay, so this is the quarterly report. I don't think there's, geez, look at that. It just gives you a summary. You know what's out there. You have to report. So no big surprise. We are, this is revenue. We are waiting for revenue to come in from the state. So you will see in the red a large amount of money. When you go down to expenditures by account, there is a, when you look at it, there's some large, in the red, amounts. I think we know that we under budgeted special ed. So a lot of that is the actual cost of what we are, providing for our students around special ed. And so we're working to write that budget. You saw that last month, Larry presented. Nothing's changed, I don't think, in that realm, or too much has changed. So, we're gonna fix it, but you're gonna see red for the time being. Anything you want to add, Larry? With your
No, we expect, it's very early in FY 26. As we are hiring a payroll person, we have Jordan Sargent doing the job of two people, which for the first quarter at least has saved
save some money.
some money. And and we expect, as far as the general fund is concerned, to end 26 at the rate we're going, similar to the way we ended FY 25.
And the way we ended FY 25 was we were over, but we were able to
We got extra
Got
revenue
some
from
extra
extraordinary revenue from the
fund
state,
balance.
and we used some of the fund balance, so that we didn't have to in FY 25 dip back into the local assessments, and we were able to keep it the way it was. We have a fund balance of currently $30,000 or so in the general fund. And if we end 26 like we ended 25, that will not cover it. So we have other things we can do as we get closer, which we'll know more in the third and fourth quarter. Still very early.
Still very early. All right, that is it for me. Passing it back to you, Bill.
Okay, Bridget?
Data report.
Yes, so we can
You
pull
want me
it
to
up.
pull that up?
Yeah.
Should have that ready. It's taking it. On the agenda.
Yeah, you guys should have gotten a PDF attached, so you could look at it in advance, which was kind of nice.
Just tell me what it's called. I'll take that.
It's not WSESU data report. Minus no, choose that copy. There we go.
So Charlotte, and you're. I should have had it ready. I won't be waiting so long. Sorry.
No, you can read.
Okay, there we go.
And just advanced slides, as I call it. So I'm on a note taking.
All right.
Okay. So the second slide in are the WIG goals that are wildly important goals that are set at the SU level. Each of the schools also have these goals. And our goal is to have 100% of our students grow in reading and math, period. It's at a low percentage point, but we want to see growth even for our students that are exceeding the standards. Really think about enrichment opportunities so that they'll continue to grow also. So we'll see where that ends up, but it's actually quite remarkable how close we are to that, which is wonderful. So that's an overall growth goal. DIBELS now for the first time is our K-3 reading assessment due to Act 139. And the initial fall scores are always tend to be low, and there's often rapid growth between the fall and the spring. We'll look at that in a moment. But overall, when we've been measuring for our data inventory from winter to winter, so that's pretty much what we base our WIG goals on, is winter to winter. That's when we submit our data inventory to the state. And so we're looking at nearly 40%, hopefully to grow to 45%. And that's the early reading screener, measured by what is now called M-class Dibbles. So we'll talk about that more in just a moment. 3rd through 8th grade, we're looking at about 59% in reading proficiency. We tend to have decent reading scores, and we want to see that overall come up to 64%. We'll break that down in a moment. So in math, continues to be a struggle statewide, falling in lower, obviously, than reading. We're looking at having 43% raised to 50%. That's a lofty goal, but we've seen great growth over the past year, especially at the middle level, and we'll talk about that also in a moment. And again, these are winter to winter, so we'll be checking in probably in a board meeting, I would guess in March, on the winter scores. Just throwing that out. I think it's
Late February.
could be the late February one. And then finally, yeah, well, I'm still here. Yeah, the percentage of students in 9 through 10, you notice we only have a reading weight goal, and that is partially because we this year for the first time have a unified assessment to give our 9th and 10th graders in STAR math, and so we didn't have data to set our weight goal in math with, but we're well aware of work that needs to be done at that level, so keeping that in mind. Okay, so breaking down M-class Dibbles, next slide. Again, this is the M-class data as of this fall. And you can imagine little Ks coming into school, right? And first graders. We tend to see a lot of need of intervention and support. 44% of our students were in basically significant need of intervention. Those parents, by law, received a letter home, and also intervention began. So that's like an immediate action that occurs, even starting the first week in September. So parents are aware that some kind of intervention has begun. And again, in general, with this reading screener, we tend to see pretty rapid growth by the winter time. So we'll update that data afterwards. But intervention at this young age is super. In terms of direct intervention, and the results are usually extremely positive. So that's the Dibbles.
A lot of bang for your buck.
That's what I'm looking for. A lot of bang for the buck. So this is the SU-wide reading data, and you can see small growth from basically 57 to close to 59 in terms of last fall and this fall. I have to be honest with you, I'm not big fan of fall data in general, because you're looking at different influencers. You're looking at last year's instructional time period, right? Mm-hmm. The carryover, and then maybe 4 to 5 weeks of this year. So it's not, we can't necessarily attribute it to one instructional experience or another, but it's a starting point and allows us to sort of look at our winter data. But that just gives you an idea about where a group of, this is better because this is the whole SU, were in the last year at this time versus the current year. So this breaks it down. This is reading. The good news about the reading data as we move up through 2 through 5, 6 through 8, and 9, 10, is you'll see growth, as you should. And this is what I mean. Students tend to respond with the kind of intensity that occurs in literacy in those early grades very well, and carrying them into the middle school. So we're looking here at, again, 51% to nearly 58% last fall to this fall. I think in general, the curriculum work that's being done, looking at how we instruct in literacy block, I think we have a much more organized system of intervention going on across all schools at this point in time. I think it's paying off, and I'm hoping we continue to see that payoff, especially at these grade levels. So that's reading. If we move to 6 through 8, you're gonna see what I mean. This is 63% and nearly 62%. So a 1% drop with changes in students, that's, so close. And again, fairly decent numbers. What I get concerned about is that group of students that get stuck below the benchmark, and how are we addressing that 6 through 8? I know that there's been more attention to intervention at the middle levels. Full-time person in Windsor addressing at this point in time, very aware of some of the extra support needed to move certainly our yellows up to red, and perhaps our students that are performing in the red up to yellow. So I'm hoping a little bit more attention at the middle level about intervention. We can not only continue with the number of students at or above the benchmark, but address some of the students that tend to stay below the benchmark, see if we can get some movement there. 9-10, again, this is actually tends to be usually a growth. You'll see growth again by the winter data. This usually is closer to in the 60 percentile. So take a look. I've got to drill down to look at that 9th and 10th grade data. I know this is a slight drop, and figure out what exactly is going on. But again, winter data, often students settle in. They've had X number of months with teachers. We might see a jump at that point in time on the 9th and 10th grade. The 10th slide, which is our data over time, we're following the same group of students. We will generally do this in the spring and not now, for the same reasons I just clarified. You don't have a full instructional year to look at how a group of 4th graders responded versus a year later. And so once again, we're looking at fall scores. And so we're looking at experiences over last year and part of this year. So I know there's been a request by this board, and a good one, to look at data over time. And I just want to say that there'll be lots of slides about this in the spring data report. It says is when we're going to put it in. But to give you an idea, this is how 4th graders responded at the same time, and now as 5th graders. But again, you're talking about fall data, so it's hard to really know, was it last year that was influencing them, or the first 5 weeks of this year? And likewise, 5th to 6th. But this is the kind of report that's going to come up in the spring, and we hope to do many grade levels, so that we see the full instructional year and how that influenced the same group of students. So stay tuned for that. Yeah.
Before we move on, I think it's important to point out that this has been a discussion in the past, of the fact that when we were looking at 6 through 8 data and 9 through 10 data, those two age groups are, when they transition from 8th grade to 9th grade, it's a completely different group of students.
Yes.
And in the past, it's been voiced in hopes of a way to at least take a look at 9th graders, all 8th graders, and then the next year to be able to look at all 9th graders, regardless of where they go.
Yeah.
Be an interesting data point.
And we can do that now, because all of our data is at EduClimber, so we're able to do that.
But
unless they come from Cornish, we don't get data from Cornish. We could probably, but we don't right now.
So do you get data from say Woodstock or Hanover?
Oh, how our 9th graders do? No.
Yeah.
And they get in. I don't know what assessment they use, but not STAR, definitely. It's a great question. Yeah, they might be able by PSAT 10 time if they're taking those, or 11. Yeah. So yeah, it's great. So we're at slide 12. And so this is SU-wide math. Always a little bit different result as we see statewide, although growth. So we're certainly moving in the right direction. I think there's been a lot of focus. We'll talk more about this, especially at the middle level, but almost all grades right now are using spiral review, which means when students begin a lesson, they're revisiting concepts as their warm up rather than just doing fluency drills. That's a big change. We started that at the middle level, had great results, especially in Windsor. And so now almost all of the schools as part of the routine are using some form of spiral review. So kids just continually revisit concepts. So we're hoping to see continual growth in math as a result of that. Also, too, more of a focus on intervention, a real awareness. As Christine said, there was data dives on the 9th, I think, and teachers just are much more fluid about talking about data, concerned about their classroom, setting goals for their kids. And I like the fact that that's on the front of their minds. And then continuing our, again, this is grades 1 and 2, very young to be taking STAR assessment. As a side note, we are looking at using M-class math instead for this young age, which would mirror M-class DIBELS. It just seems to be a more developmentally appropriate tool, same standards measured, but just in a very different way. We have found at times that even the reading gets in the way of the math. And so you skew standards if you end up having reading of a problem set getting in the way of a student being able to express their understanding of math skills. So we are exploring the possibility of moving to M-class math for these young grades in the fall. So we'll keep you posted on that. But you'll see the difference in terms of math, continues to be, usually ends up at about a 40% to 48% or higher as students get older. So you'll see 3 through 5 here. We're all the way up to 41 and grew to nearly 46%. Again, I credit that to some of the spiral review that started the year. And just more of awareness with intervention. And then here's 6 through 8. This is quite a leap. They started spiral review last year. So in a way, they've sort of had at least a half-year jump. That's quite significant, as you can see, in terms of growth. And then continuing on, this is the same data that we'll look at more closely in the spring. But what you want to see, obviously, is growth for the 5th and then on through 6 in terms of more exposure and growth. So we'll save a deeper conversation, slide 16, in regards to that. And then
Heather?
Yeah, Heather, you got it.
With the math teacher jump in here with
I just have a question about the timing of your STAR test. And by timing, I mean, there's a setting where students can sort of get extra time for each question because it is a time test. And so I know that something we did was like everyone gets the extra time in our district. And I didn't know if that was something you guys have looked at as well, because like if you spend too much time on one question because maybe your reading skills aren't so great and you're trying to like actually read the problem, by the time you start doing the math, they've already jumped you to the next one.
I'm fairly sure that K through 5, all timers are turned off universally. So I'll double check on that, but I think that was agreed upon by each of the school sites.
The issue with turning off the timers, though, then your some of your data coming out on grade level as well as regional standards is no longer accurate.
Yeah. Well,
the normative piece.
it may affect national percentile. It may affect national percentile. It will not probably affect, I have to think about this, benchmark, meeting the benchmark. Because then you're measuring, can a student or not meet the benchmark? Not how that student does against the nation.
Right. But the benchmark is based upon, my question is the benchmark based upon the national age standards?
State standards.
Right.
Right.
But the standard score is the same regardless.
So we can set our standard score to measure the nation, all the nation, or to measure Vermont benchmarks, how these students do against Vermont benchmarks. It's set for Vermont benchmarks right now, all this data. that we
Right,
see.
but does cutting off, the question would be, does not having a timer affect the accuracy of the benchmark scores?
I don't think it does, and it's a great question, only because you're measuring how a student is or is not meeting the benchmark standard. You're not measuring them against anybody. So you and I definitely can dig in. I think that's a good question to dig into, but it's as if it took me 10 minutes to meet a benchmark, right? Versus it took you 20 minutes to meet a benchmark. In both cases, we both met the benchmark, which is what we want measured.
Right.
So it's definitely worth.
Yeah, it'd be an interesting question.
It is.
It's
The data behind the scenes.
before.
Yep, and I think it's great. So continuing on to breaking down this data, beginning with slide 18. This is free and reduced lunch in terms of STAR reading. We do see a discrepancy about 8 to 10% between students who are on free and reduced lunch and those who are not. So keeping that in mind, just, how can we increase access, intervention, whatever that happens to be, to close that gap? I don't recall, last year it was about 8, and this year it looks like it's closer to 10, if I'm looking at this correctly. So something to keep in mind in terms of trends. When we get to math, it's even greater. Free and reduced is the first set of slides. So it was 66 and compared to 53 below the benchmark last year, and now we're at 60 versus 49. So we've closed that gap, right, for this year more significantly in math than we have, but it still is too much. And it's something that, something for us to look at.
But looking at this discrepancy is pretty impressive as compared to nationwide. The discrepancy nationwide on these two categories is much worse than this.
Yeah.
I just kind of want to cheer out.
Yeah.
some of our successes.
Yeah.
Good context, yeah.
And obviously we'd like it to be no
Better.
discrepancy, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so slide 20 is students on an IEP and STAR reading. It's good to have Jen here to talk probably more eloquently about this, but I will say that some of the students that are not meeting the benchmark are receiving intervention on their individual education plan as a result of not meeting the benchmark, if that makes sense. So one of the criteria for eligibility would be a number of data points that indicate a student is below the benchmark. So obviously some discrepancy in our data of students on an IEP and students are not simply makes sense in the idea of the process with which we derive an IEP. Whether or not it should be this large with intervention, I think is something that I would certainly let Jen talk with the group about. And if you go to slide 21, we see this similar pattern in math. So it's something that Jen and I have begun a conversation with. We'll continue to have conversations with in terms of, overall as an SU, where are we at, what we could be doing. But again, the good news on some of this is that some of the interventions and supports are in place. And to the extent that they need to be, or that we can start to close this gap, is a conversation, obviously. And the other thing to remember is this is all grade levels. So your little ones, right, where you need that intensive support in terms of, let's say, reading, they'll begin to bounce and make huge gains in reading with that support. This is data K through 10. So just keeping that in mind. Jen, is there anything else you wanted to add about that?
I mean, I think you summed it up well when you
thinking about a youngster with a disability, specifically a specific learning disability, in reading or math, it's going to take them that much longer to close the gap because by definition, they have a specific learning disability in basic skill area. So,
But the term self-fulfilling prophecy is not the correct term,
Right.
but, and I don't know what the correct term is, but the fact is that these students are on this list because they're below grade level. And so when that gap begins to be closed, then those students often come off an IEP and then come off this list.
Right.
And so,
And new students go on.
and new students go on.
Correct.
And so,
Right. Yeah.
this is a rotating group as opposed to the group before,
Right.
which those students have a tendency to remain on that list regardless of
Right.
their academic ability.
Yeah, and how can you break that pattern?
Always
Yeah.
been a little different.
Yep.
Well,
Yep.
fits, right?
Yep.
So this, I mean,
Yeah.
basically this list, that difference will never be closed.
Right.
Because of how that list is made.
Correct. Great. So, as Christine talked about, we have a few new systems in place. One of which is MBA, attendance and behavior data. So we're just giving you a small sampling of that, tonight, and you will hear perhaps deeper reports at the building level reports, and faculty has had a chance of looking at this data. So on slide, number 23, this is how reports come in, around just attendance. So overall, the district, for example, has a 95% attendance rate. You'll see 1,300 parties, which might make you jump a tad. But I just want to remind, as was spoken about behavioral data, if, for example, one student decides that their mode of operation is to be late for their classes, okay? So 7 classes, let's say, times 5 days a week, times 40 school days, that would be 1,400 in itself. So it seems like a lot of tardies, but when we start to drill down, we just have some patterns that have to be interrupted. And, you know, first period is another time that we see late. You know, it's like, well, my car didn't start, or you could have left 2 minutes earlier. A lot of first block issues, generally at the older level, but some at the younger level. So again, it's great because it puts this in, you know, in our horizon to take a look at and address. We're also looking at chronic absenteeism this year. We've got school engagement coaches. At this point in time, the good news, it's down 3% from this point in time last year. Again, I think simply because we are addressing it. We've got school engagement coaches that are taking a look at students that are chronically absent and what those families need and reaching out. So hopefully that 3% down from this time last year holds, but that's really good news. And, you know, we want kids in school. So I think that's fabulous.
You want to say anything about the new, we'll be sending out information on?
Oh,
this
yeah.
new-
So,
this new plugin for parents? but-
yeah, there is a coming up. Parents are going to be able to go into the portal and write that their child is out sick. It'll come right into the attendance secretary rather than relying on phone calls back and forth. So that will be an option with which it's not have to, but it's an option that parents can just fill in that. We'll have information on how parents can access that portal. They also will get alerts if their child is tardy twice. So there's a lot more kind of push going out. I think Hartford has a school system like that. It's not MBA, it's another one where if your child is late or skipped a class or whatever, you get an alert. So there's a lot more push data that is going to be coming in email, and you can check. There'll be a way to check this portal for parents to see what's going on. So if you're looking to 10 classes missed, where have you been, right? So it's going to provide a lot of information. So yeah, so that's good.
Is there any definition? This is one thing I'm struggling with, where I'm at, is any definition between the difference between a tardy and an absence?
I think did we say 15 or 20 minutes? It's in the behavior handbook.
It's, well, it's actually on the admin agenda to
Right.
clarify tomorrow.
Right.
Yeah, because
So stay
that's
tuned.
questions coming up for us too.
And we have no there.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So when are they late and when are they, you know, with
Right.
the class?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, yeah, that's tomorrow. But,
Stay
yeah.
tuned on that.
Yeah, stay tuned.
Okay, and then the next one is the dashboard. This tells how many incidents. I will say it looks like October dropped, but we only did this mid-October, so stay tuned on that. But this, it just is overall the average logins, sessions per day. And, you know, we'll keep an eye on that. This is really great news because for staff, for students, you know, across the board, people are looking at behavior and attendance data this year, and I think that's a good thing. It also lets you know where things are occurring. As you can see from slide 25, most of these are in the classroom. So when we get log entries, most of them are occurring in classroom. Knowing little ones, I'm not surprised, also on the playground and at lunch and in the hallway, what we call the loose structure time periods. None of that is probably surprising to all of you. So that's kind of interesting data too. And so the teachers look at that data and they say, what can we do better out on the recess field or at lunchtime to improve this so incidents reduce? So it's really pinning down. And the last slide, just quickly, again, we're not surprised that time of day tends to be the middle of the day, where we see the most incidents. That's when recess and lunch occurs. All this kind of stays in line. Maybe sometime around 10 o'clock, they're getting hungry. I'm not really sure, but we can figure that out, and or tired. But it's interesting just to see that come up and then kind of come back down. But
If they're not
you
in
know,
school at 12 a.m.,
right.
Staff is learning how to use the system.
Right.
That was actually my
Yes.
question.
Yeah.
Is that just user internet?
Yeah, we have a principal that I always apologize because we do a test student, right? And so we put in these incidents and tests and then we forget to remove them. So this child was misbehaving at 12
Yeah,
a.m.
but some of
Right.
it's just user error.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah,
It is.
get that
It's all
out.
good. It is all good. So anyway, this at a much deeper level. Teachers can drill down. They can see, you know, what classroom it's coming out of, even what students, what can we do to support these students and so on. So it's been great. So,
Yeah.
Good. Questions, thoughts?
No, this was
Okay.
fantastic. Yeah.
They're starting to break it down too, and by gender, by we can run it by being reduced versus non-being reduced to see if there's any trends or patterns. Also by race. So we're starting to look at that just to see if we're noticing anything. Yeah. So anyway, more to come. Yep. I'll stop sharing.
John,
Yeah, a question I didn't see in any of the data. Is it collected, the number of students percentage wise that are on IEPs? And secondly, the goal when the students put on an IEP is to have it be temporary as possible, and the number that we're actually transitioning from an IEP into the general educational population.
So our child count, our most recent child count, we have 284 students between pre-K and 12th grade who are currently eligible for special education. It's, I don't know what our current complete student population is. I think we're around 22% special ed eligible out of the entire student population of all our schools, pre-K to 12. That's a rough estimate. And students, you know, we always want to be able to close the gap and have our students sort of exit out of special education. But, you know, there are 13 different areas of disability, and some students are far more impacted than others. Some do transition throughout the years off of an IEP, and some will graduate. You know, when students graduate, they no longer have an IEP. But we do have students who certainly stay on IEPs through until 12th grade. So, and it just really depends on the impact of their disability as to whether they're able to kind of grow out of an IEP or not. If that makes sense.
But I think, John,
Is there trending one direction or the other on the percentage?
Well, so the only data I've looked at is just the current child count data that we have. I can, I think I'm probably slated to speak to the board at some point, and I can show you our data that outlines the number of students per disability area. I can tell you that the primary disability is specific learning disability right now is the highest area of disability percentage-wise, as well as developmental delay, which is our 3 to 5 year olds, followed by emotional disturbance. I think those are our top 3 disability areas, which is not unusual or unlike the rest of the state as far as our count goes.
Thank you.
Yep.
Tracy?
All right. I can join, and I'm not sharing my screen, Christine, but I just tried to join.
Oh, yes, sorry.
Oh, no, you're good.
You'd like to come into the meeting?
I
No
would
soup
like
for
to
you.
have it.
They can see her, they just gotta see the screen. You know, you can just.
She's coming, she's coming.
Oh, weird. So. I couldn't vote for some reason. Sorry, that didn't. All right. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so just wanted to give a few quick updates. These are just repeat slides. Our theme again is stronger together, thinking about different ways. And actually these next 2 slides all come from working with students with disabilities, but this is one that we continue to show as a reminder that belonging is not about fitting in. It's not about assimilating. It's about being able to show up as all of who you are. And when we think about universal design, right, I think I've shared this with the board before, you've probably seen this, right? It's like, why not shovel the ground first? It's like when we can center the people most impacted, we know that it's better for everybody. So just some reminders. And this is also a reminder. It's also a reminder for myself. This is something, I don't know if folks are familiar with what they've been talking about with this perception gap. How we're seeing just so much polarization and othering in our society. And this is actually showing that in reality, we kind of care about some of the same things. And so again, it's a reminder, I think we're really, we've been pitted against each other really well. And it's nice to remember that we actually may have more in common with each other, even though it might not always feel that way. So I just thought that was interesting. And there are a bunch of different organizations that are doing some work around this. Some things that we're working on this year, continuing, to work on our group agreements and find ways to keep using these to build community, build culture, build trust. Asking the question, who's missing and why? This is basically a part of using an equity filter, right? Which is also something that we are getting in the practice of doing, which is just asking questions. This is the lens that is from the AOE. And so we're bringing those in, right? Just tomorrow we have a meeting with the administrative team, and just asking these questions. Where can we ask these when we're looking at the data? How do we continue to surface assumptions, right? What are our own biases that may be coming up when we're looking at data? So finding all the places where we can just continue to put these questions into practice. This was also the new language that was added recently to our handbooks, which I think helps support some of, again, the culture that we're building and some things that we are noticing in our schools. And so I just wanted to share that so far this year, we've had
think 54 equity tickets submitted. And so this was purposefully created in, because of our anti-racism policy that wanted an anonymous way for people to report discrimination, things that were happening. And I'll say this will continue to exist, but some of the work like that Bridget and Wendy have been doing about thinking about how we integrate behaviors into Power School gives us the opportunity to actually have people mark things like slurs more intentionally as they're coding it in Power School. So we have like 3 different things, you know, sometimes if it's a hazing, harassment, bullying, there's a student conduct form, there's Power School, there was an equity ticket. So trying to figure out if we can streamline all those things and not lose anything in the process of doing that. So far the tickets that came in, it was 52 at the time where I put the slide together, right? You can see these same patterns. I was on the call this afternoon. There's the HHB council that's been meeting in the state, and Big Hartman was reporting from the Human Rights Commission. It's the same, it's an uptick, right? We're seeing an uptick in not just incidents, but like the severity of some of these incidents, but they tend to be in the same categories, right? They're around race, sex, gender, disabilities, like these, we know that these are patterns. And so it's not surprising, even though our equity ticket system isn't fully, like we don't know if we're getting all of the reports, but of the ones that do come in, these are the patterns that we see. So some of the ways that we're working on addressing them this year has been great. I was invited to talk to some different middle schools. The one in the top right was Weathersfield most recently. And these were follow-ups to the presentations that principals gave, right, around HHB, getting students familiar with the language. So this was a more specific around some, like I just shared, you know, the equity tickets. I shared this with students. And some specific examples, right, about the things that are most common, like if the use of the N word, right, the use of the R word, which kids are still saying. I'm like, did we not stop saying that in like 1980 sometime? But like, it's the same, or saying not so gay, right? It's the same things that are coming up. And so we want to let them know, like, that's not okay. And yes, you're here to learn. And we can learn together, and we can also like agree to just not use these words, because, you know, they need to understand why. So a little bit of educating and also encouraging people, like students, to be upstanders, right? And so I think there's more that we can do around that. I'm excited to see, you know, maybe over this year, and I feel like we've been talking about this, if we can get our high school students trained up on how to train middle school students and younger students about really engaging as upstanders instead of passive bystanders. So, but this was really, the presentation was more along the lines of intent versus impact. And even though it was for middle school in Heartland, we ended up also putting one together for 3rd through 5th grade. So it was like, how do we adjust this for 3rd through 5th grade? What would it look like to have that whole scope, you know, of these kinds of presentations ready to go? So every year we can just revisit these same themes because we know they come up. This is the video. Let's see, how am I going to be able to, I feel like I might need to stop because it's not live in here. Let me figure out how I can stop sharing the screen because then I'll share. Okay. This should do it. Let's see.
To play audio, you have to share the tab.
We should be able to do this. Let's see this now. There you go.
At the volume.
Yeah.
The mic's gonna pick up.
I feel like that's the right. It looks like it's ready, but for some reason it doesn't want to play. Maybe. Let me see. Yeah, let's see. I mean, I have it like, let me try it. I have it pulled up in like 4 different screens, so I should be able to.
One of them.
Go yeah, I mean, that's it. So I don't know why it's not. It's not, I don't think this is linked in the agenda, but it's linked in my slide deck.
Oh, it's not linked in the agenda.
It's linked in my slide deck, which is on the agenda.
Yeah, that's what I saw.
I mean, it's strange. It's the link. It's just not. Maybe I need to play through here. That's really weird. It's quite good, actually.
That's very strange.
Did
Sorry,
you,
y'all.
did you download it?
No, it's on Canva. Trying like a couple different ones to see if any of them will work. The buildup.
I don't even know who to name.
You just put the link to the camera thing in the chat.
Weird. It's the right link. It's just not.
It's linked in your report?
It's not playing. It's in the slide deck.
You trying that bottom play button too, Trace?
I'm trying play buttons. That's very strange. It's I mean,
Is it your last slide? No. It's, what number is it?
oh wait, there we go. Okay, that was the one. I have too many of them. That's the problem.
So I do Unity Day every year. I've done it for probably 6 years now at all my different schools. It celebrates the idea of coming together, against Stronger Together being our overall focus this year. And I got the hand idea online, and orange is the color that Pacers National Anti-Bullying Organization uses for Unity Day. So it just made sense to make the orange hands.
Being kind feels better than being bullied. Two wrongs don't make it right. Being bullied doesn't feel good.
Do you really know them well? Because what saying my mom always said is, you don't know what's happening at their house.
Speak up for people being picked on.
If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it.
Being respectful and understanding to others.
Don't talk about others behind their back. You don't know what they're going through.
Help the person up and help them.
See someone sitting at lunch by themselves, you can go sit with them. If you see something, say something. Tell them to breathe.
Treat others the way you want to be treated.
You can have a conversation about your issues.
Speak up for people when they're being bullied.
Tell a trusted adult.
Have a good day.
It's about filling up for people's buckets by being kind to them. If you say a compliment, you can put a drop into other people's buckets and into your bucket.
Don't be mean to people. Don't bully others. Be kind to one another. Be your best self. Don't let others get to you.
Be friends, not spread kindness, not hate.
Be nice to others and treat people the way that you want to be treated.
Don't bully people for their disability.
Simon says, stop bullying.
Be kind to everyone you meet.
Don't bully and live in the rate of suicide. Stop bullying when they're being bullied.
Bully no one and become a friend.
You're not so good at drawing all the time. Hey, that isn't very nice. You okay? You should learn how to treat people better. That doesn't look like a guinea pig. That looks like a stupid wiener dog. You're mean! Stop doing that. Those are mean words. Leave her alone. What? It was funny. It was not. I'm sorry.
Playing relax.
You trace your hand and then you cut it out. Right, like some things that make people happy. Give them compliments, manners.
Very
good.
Yeah, and shout out to Brooke
Yeah.
for putting that all together, and to Frank Romeo for throwing the idea out there. Hey, does anybody want to collaborate around a video like this? So trying to work the themes again for the month. So nice job all around on that one. Okay. I think I just just a couple quick things. One is that we are excited to be partnering with Outright Vermont, and I would share more information about what's on the left, but we had somebody who generously offered some public comments that already spoke, I think, to what's on this slide. So what I will say is Outright is working with a group of school counselors and social emotional interventionists, behavioral interventionists, and we had our first training with them, the first of 3 that we'll have this year. So capacity building, which is awesome. And then I don't have to speak to this much either. Up for Learning, we're excited that we're partnering with them in the high school. Christine mentioned that, and we're also looking to partner with them a little bit more around restorative practices. Again, one of those opportunities, like if we can get students to be the ones who are also doing some of the training. And these were some students that went to the Getting to Why, which is reviewing the YRBS data and how to bring that back to schools. And these are just some additions to the newsletters, to the SU newsletters that Christine has been sending out. So sort of categorizing them within the education quality standards and why the education that we're doing and highlighting is around like anti-racism, anti-discrimination, right? These are all part of what our state has said that we should be doing as of this past July. And then just trying to collect things to communicate through policy briefs too. And I don't know if I've shared with the board that we secured a $15,000 grant from the Byrne Foundation to partner with Clemens Family Farm this year. So we are working to figure out what that's going to look like in terms of curriculum and yeah, just Bridget, it's been great like working with you and thinking about how do we're gonna look at how do we review our curriculum to make sure, right, that what we're providing is presenting different people from different perspectives, right? And how we go about doing that is something I think we're excited to dig into a little bit more. And I'll report back on how that all goes. And I think that's all I got for y'all tonight.
Yes, thank you. SU budget, Larry.
Okay. So, just bring it up here. So a few things that I wanted to, that have changed since the original presentation, and then kind of an overview of some new parts of the budget book. First, the budget book was public on September 18th. So more than a month ago. It was on the website, out in Christine's newsletters, email to the board. So not major changes, but there are some additions to the budget book and then some things that are more germane to the actual numbers behind the budget that I can go over. The first thing is I included Act 11 in the evolution of Vermont education law, which Act 11 was a spending bill, but it also included the statewide bargaining process for school employee healthcare benefits. I know that's come up at a few board meetings. Somebody asked me for an overview of how we've been affected by the health insurance trends since Act 11, and that's what I included here. So what this shows is since Act 11, fiscal year 20 is when it took effect, and I included fiscal year 19 for comparison's sake. The chart below shows the changes in annual premiums for both the single and family gold CDHP plans. About 75% of our insurance plans are family gold CDHP. for support staff and teachers. And as you can see, in fiscal year 19, a family plan cost $15,320, and now we are budgeting $35,117. So it used to be health plans were negotiated just like how we negotiate salaries and other benefits as part of the master agreement. That was taken away from local school districts and put at the state level in fiscal year 20. And as you can see, a family plan, an individual plan went from $5,531 a year to $12,677 a year. More than doubled in less than 8 fiscal years. So that's included now in the budget book. That is live. Everybody can read it. The second thing was I wanted to include some things trying to put the increase in special ed, particularly around mental health and psychological services, which we have seen an increase in our SU, more in context with the state. So as you go through and you see all the revenues and this is all the same information that you've seen before in our budget book. I included the historical rate of increase in the program, which you've again seen before. Again, just the headline number is 16% for FY27, 14.6% of which is special education, 1.4% is administration and operations, which is basically non-special education, transportation, IT, superintendent, business office, curriculum, it's DEI, etc. Vermont mental health needs in schools. So I'm just going to read this a little bit. Mental health providers and services are unevenly available around the state. We are a small state. That means some schools have to hire their own specialists at higher cost, and districts that can contract with local providers. The demand for mental health positions is more than quadrupled in the last 3 years, compounding the impact. The chart below on the left shows AOE data of mental and behavioral health positions throughout the state. Meanwhile, the chart on the right shows mental health psychological services spending in Windsor Southeast SU special education for the same time period, illustrating that Windsor Southeast SU and our member districts have experienced a similar surge as the rest of the state. So if you look over here on the left, this is the AOE data from 22 to 25. And over here on the right is our data from 22 to 25, comparing budgets and actual spending. So as you can see, the jump, we were experiencing the same jump. So I want to make sure that was put into context as part of the overall increase in the special ed budget. Finally, what is different from what you've seen when I presented the budget last month? Some minor things. So one thing, for example, I got 2 good news and 1 not, I guess, which is neither good nor bad. So the first is health insurance. We have the VHI request for budgeting that we should put in for budgeting is 7.3%. I was using 11.9% because I was going off of a 3-year running average of the last 3 until I got the official number from VHI, which they came in at 7.3%. So that's good news. It's a little less. So that has impacted the SU budget a little bit to the better. I also, communications, you'll see under accounts down at the bottom, you'll see a pretty big increase in communications. And, what is that for? Is that internet? That is not internet. Communications, those are the phones. We have new phones because our old phones are end of life. Use that as an opportunity in the budget to put that and centralize it at the SU level with the lease for the new phones. That will be zeroed out of your local budgets. So that's not an addition in the grand scheme of all the budgets. It's moving money to the SU. So that's kind of a wash. And then the other thing to the better is Jen has wrapped up the service plan, and in that service plan, the extraordinary reimbursement amount is $90,000. The revenue we get from the state, which will be less of an impact on your assessments, is $90,000 to the better of what I presented last month. So again, that doesn't change the budget. It just changes the assessment. So that's good. I have no other changes. Those are, like I said, everything that you've seen has been pretty minor changes from what you've seen last meeting. I just wanted to make sure that I pointed out to everybody, if somebody asks about how health insurance is going across the state, you can point them to that page. If somebody asks about psychological services spending is up, you know, a fair amount of money year over year and what's been going on the previous year, you can point them to that section of the financials of the budget. And that's all I have, unless you have any questions for me.
Thank you, Larry.
Thank you.
Items for discussion, followed by motion. SU FY 27 budget adoption. Do we have a number?
Yes, Larry.
Yes, the number is $16,484,090. $1,090. Sorry, $16,484,090.
Okay. I'll take a motion to approve this, and then we'll go into discussion.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, discussion on this. Is it my imagination, or this is a little earlier this year? We've got this.
No, it's earlier than last year, but historically it's been the October meeting. Last year, I think we went to the November meeting.
Yes.
And then one year we went into it and approved it in October, and then we reopened it for the special ed administration position 2 years ago.
I think it's helpful, for the local budgets to get started, to have this ready.
I know that was a goal.
Yeah, and I know that, some of the local, districts would like preliminary budget in November so that their constituents have a good month.
Yeah, before the December meeting.
Yeah, to look at it. So yes, we have, worked really hard to get this done.
Yeah.
In a timely manner.
And thank you.
Yeah, and thanks to the budget, committee who met with us and helped, look at the numbers and help make decisions.
We have a percent increase. I know that I could look it up, but
The percent increase is 16%, 14.6% of the special ed, and 1.4% is administration operations.
And some of that is correcting of, budgeting of the past, which,
I think it's important to note that the 14.6% of special ed, which I did in greater detail at the last meeting, is under the actuals in 25 and the actuals in 26. It was never, there are increases in tuition to out-of-state placement that we have to spend, and we are going to spend, whether they are budgeted for or not. And fiscal year 27 was the first time we have been able to budget for them appropriately.
thank you. Any other discussion? I'd like to say the increase is significant. But I feel it's, actually put this, the prudent thing to do. It shows the reality of where we're at. If that's no more, have to sign back in. There's room for discussion. I will take a vote. Did I miss somebody? I think I know everyone is here. Davis.
Aye.
Okay. Megan.
Aye.
Elizabeth.
Aye.
Heather.
Aye.
Is Hannah here? I haven't seen her. Okay. Beth.
Aye.
Anne Marie.
Aye.
John.
Aye.
Sarah.
Aye.
And I am an aye.
thank you very much. Thank you.
And because of the adoption, we will be working on the local budgets now, and news of those should be coming out soon. as soon as this week because it got adopted tonight. And I will send an email out to the board members of the respective local boards when it goes on the website.
Your cover sheet in motion said $16,484,090. Like that. Okay. Executive session. Or do we want to set the next agenda first?
Do you want to do the board goals or not tonight?
Oh, sorry, my bad. Board goals. Elizabeth.
I have an unrelated question. I have an unrelated question.
Go right ahead.
Who is the new chair of Heartland's board?
It's Beth. Beth Roy.
Congratulations, Beth.
She already ran her first community engagement forum. She did a fantastic job. Yeah.
I would expect.
Yeah.
Okay, board goals. In reading these last week, I think we touched on it last week. My opinion is just my opinion is the fact that I really don't see any need to change the goals because even though I believe we've made progress, they're all pretty relevant to the things that we want to accomplish as an SU board. But I am open to other suggestions and comments.
Makes sense to me.
I'll take a motion to renew the goals.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
They will stay on the agenda for you to review.
I think they're all ayes. I don't believe there's any nays. Okay. We want to set the next agenda.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. I think I already asked for a couple of things.
Budget, okay, we don't need budget adoption, we did that. So I have algebra for eighth. Board.
Yeah.
Under items for action, we need a second signer for the checks, is that the correct?
I'm gonna work on it. I'm gonna work on that, yeah.
You said who's gonna negotiate the contract?
Yes.
For the
Yeah.
superintendent. And I had that we're gonna add. I'm gonna get, I'll get feedback on that. Thank you policy, and we'll add a fourth.
Okay.
Reading to the acceptable use.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did I miss anything?
I don't think so.
Great.
Unless someone else has something. Okay.
And if anything comes up during the month.
Yeah.
Add to it.
Okay, executive session. And I've been chomping at the bit for this one, I guess. Under Title I, Section 313, we are going into executive session to discuss a lease agreement and contract.
So
which also falls under labor relations agreements within the board.
when we stop the recording. Yeah.